Yeah. All kinds of streaming going on here. We are tired and hot. Mr. Attorney. We're live on YouTube right now. I want to make a statement to the people.
Man, look, y'all know what it is, man. 2020, in front of the Franklin County Courthouse, they have a statue of hate, a statue of a terrorist, a statue of a traitor to the country, a statue that tells my kids that they are slaves, and I want it removed. Am I wrong? Y'all let me know.
I believe the man's pretty reasonable by saying replace or remove and relocate, rather.
Relocate the statue. I know that these are people that fought for the Confederacy that are from this town. So I do respect the people. Don't respect their stance. Know that if they won, that me and my family would be enslaved. I still don't want to respect it. I just want to relocate it away from my walls of justice. I should be able to walk into this courtroom right here. Every man should be able to walk in here with his head held high. Every man should be able to walk in here as equal men. And we cannot do it with this representation out here. We can't. It's impossible.
For those that don't know, I think I got it out of memory now. I don't even have to put my paperwork out. The Confederate Constitution states that if it wasn't for the institution of slavery, the Negro, the African, would have no place in the United States of America. Now, how is that not?
In order for us to say that we matter today, man, we have to make sure that our ancestors mattered then. Our ancestors built this country, got no respect, got no land, they got no wealth. They helped build the slave masters' wealth. Can you imagine that? Imagine you working hard to empower and make your slave master more powerful. That's what they did. We'll want them to know, these people right here that represent this, that our family and our ancestors matter. For these kids right here.
There's that statue, there's that terrorist he's speaking of. Why is it everybody else gets reparations? Why is it everybody else gets a national apology? Why is it everyone else gets recognized as a victim?
Because of the victims. The victims did not matter, man.
3/5 of a man.
And they only wanted them to be considered 3/5 of a man so they could get their vote. You know, y'all need to go back and do your history, man. The Civil War was about votes. Most of the states were moving away from slavery, and these people knew that they were losing their voice in the United States of America. They knew that, so they wanted to count you as 3/5 of a man, but didn't want to treat you or give you the respect as a man.
Now they were losing their workforce. They were losing their workforce, and they were panicking. How can we get the cotton picked? How can we get the other crops handled without our workforce? They said clearly in their constitution, not ours, not mine, no make-believe, in their laws, their bylaws, their rules. We will fight for the institution of slavery to be kept within their territory. Okay, but that's not slavery. That's not racism.
If you guys have any Confederate statues around your way, go look on it. Go look up the Daughters of the Confederacy. They're right here on this statue. They also wrote the school books down south. Whitewashed history, man, made slavery not seem so bad. Mm-hmm. So nowadays, white people can come when they try to take out for this statue and be like, it wasn't so bad. They don't know the beatings, the murders, the rapes, the child molestations.
That's right.
They don't consider any of that. None of that, because it never happened in those school books that they teach.
It's a shame.
These people made sure of it.
It's a shameful part of history. We're not asking you to go around and preach about how bad your relatives were. We're asking you to acknowledge the symbols that recognize the ideologies of the past. Don't need to be at courthouses. They don't need to be in the town square. They just need to be in a museum or a historical zone where those who want to see them can go see them at will, by choice.
Seek them out.
And seek them out. Not where you go to handle your legal business. Not where you go and mingle with people that you love and people that you share the same views with, just want equality, just want to get along and do just fine, live a normal life. How can we mix and mingle? How can we get equality? How can we even talk about equality when white supremacy is being promoted by the city? The state of Virginia makes a license plate that says, "Don't tread on me." Do you know where that comes from? "Don't tread on me" was part of the Confederacy, one of their slogans. You want to make it and put it on license plates, right? And you got people running around with that on the license plate and promoting a racist slogan. And we have people who don't know what it means, and it's not their fault. Miseducation, all right, victims of poor education, that happens. But then you have the other half who voluntarily sign up and co-sign and align themselves with racism, right? Hate, oppression. Keep it real.
Keep it, man. In order for us to move forward, man, we have to acknowledge the past, man. This country was built on racism. It was intertwined in everything. From the industry to the government is built on racism. We have to acknowledge that to move forward.
That's right. You got to acknowledge the past.
It's a call. I'm saying that they've already done that.
10 times
They've
over.
already done it.
What do they call it? Sterilized history. They're sterilized. The man said in the interview for, I think it was one of the Rocky Mount, Franklin County newspapers, "You cannot sterilize history by moving this statue." I said earlier, how can you, the promoter of a false history, one who has whitewashed, who has lied, miseducated your own people, you've miseducated the masses, you have sterilized history, and you want to stand here and talk about removing this statue sterilizes history? Another man from from this area, in the same interview, he said that moving the statue does not address the problems of systemic racism. We need to address those problems and not concern ourselves with our heritage and symbols that represent our heritage. Man, that is systemic racism right there. So we've been out here for a while. I'm losing my voice, so I'm trying to commit to the digital part of this. And matter of fact, let me get this brother right here. Darnell Moore. Darnell. We live on YouTube right now. So, spit some facts to me like you might take your mask down. Oh. I don't think you'll get COVID-9 from the fresh air, brother. Spit some of that Confederate knowledge like you spitting to me.
I think probably one of the more interesting things is that the monument was put up in 1910 as part of a grant to put monuments. And there's pictures of the courthouse up. Monument, no American flag. Anti-Americanism. I heard you said that today. That's the most beautiful statement I've ever heard.
I think I just realized you did an interview for the news for the dress code. Or,
Yes,
that's you. I recognized it. I kept talking. I was like, that voice sounds familiar. Yes, because I said to myself, that brother is wise right there.
Yeah.
And I said he kept it real because he was real proper and clean with it. And one thing about the schools district around this area, I believe there's only one person of color on the school board.
Yes, and in fact, and it's somewhat of even a testament to the school board, but kind of the dragging our feet in terms of the times. When we integrated our schools, we used to have, I'm first generation that's gone through a desegregated school system. My parents were part of the group that segregated. When we integrated our school system, they added a seat on the board specifically so that there would be a minority voice. So the member is a member at large, and it's been historically a black seat. What we haven't done, even though we've moved out into more parts of the community, now that we've desegregated, we've gotten rid of some of the redlining in our district, and that's real. You know, our people still find deeds that say you cannot sell this to a black person. Wow. And so we don't find that, because if the real estate agent reads that and goes, well, I'm just going to go ahead and follow it, then we never know.
You never know about it.
But when now the real estate agents are going, oh, well, I'm not dealing with that stuff. I'll sell it to anybody. We're starting to see these things pop up. And so now we're moving into all districts in Franklin County. And so what should happen is we should start gaining more representation on the board as a whole, and that member at large seat should not be as necessary for African Americans. I think it'll always be necessary because we've got other groups that are currently underserved. Right now, our Hispanic population, which our school systems allow. If you come in as a non-English speaking student and you learn English as your time in the school system, you can replace coding with a second language in the high school level. So the state of Virginia says, hey, if you already know 2 languages because you're an ESL student, we'll let you take computer coding and count that as a college level course. But we don't have anyone on our school board that's speaking up for that population.
That's
so
important.
it is important. It's important for the kind of kids that we produce. If we can produce more coders in this county, we're gonna make more money in this county. There's gonna be more taxes. So, African Americans, hopefully we're going to get to shift ourselves away from needing that member at large seat, and the next populations that are growing can start growing into those seats, and then we can start taking our proper seat at the standard table.
So that member at large seat is almost like equal opportunity.
It is exactly an equal opportunity. Because we weren't large enough to explain some of the issues we had, but having a seat at the table, and if nothing else, it changed the conversation, because you can't talk the same way behind someone's back as you can to their face.
Correct.
And that's why it's important that we start sharing that seat and letting some of our other underrepresented minorities move into those seats.
Don't you think the lack of minority representation on all boards and forums in this area is a sign?
It is, but
It's a sign, kind of a sign.
African Americans are almost always a canary in a coal mine.
Right.
Is when things benefit African Americans, it benefits everyone else. We like to talk about a tide rising all boats, but the truth is we can tell when things are sinking when the black community starts sinking. We can tell things are progressing when the black community starts progressing. When black people got a vote, then women got a vote. It's we're that canary that says something was wrong, now it's being fixed, and when it gets fixed for us, it gets fixed for everybody. So, when we say Black Lives Matter, this means that if you are at the bottom rung, once that issue is taken care of, nobody else is going to suffer from it, because we have a criminal justice system that doesn't just trap and enslave black people.
Right.
It traps and enslaves heavily poor people. It traps and enslaves people who don't have connections. So when we fix that for African Americans, everybody else is going to get the benefits of those fixes.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people understand that women are considered minorities because you're black. You're not the only minority. And just the term minority itself.
It sometimes it does, because we think about minorities in terms of smaller populations. But what we really want to think about minorities as are people who had legal bars against them from accessing constitutional rights.
Yes.
So women were legally barred from choosing the right to vote. Women were legally barred from deciding who they were going to marry. Women were legally barred from owning land. So the legal bars, so it's not that they were anyone else was given anything, but when they said fired off the shotgun and everybody got to run, they said, hold on, y'all don't run yet. And so what we're saying is anybody who's being held from running that race honestly, let's listen to those grievances, let's take those barriers out of the way, and let's run this race honest, because it's going to improve everybody.
I mean, it seems like basic knowledge that if one set of people is being held back, being pushed back, held back, and the economy, say just for example, the economy is not right. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Let's say the economy is not right. Let's say we uplift all people, then you would logically see an improvement, for example, the economy.
You would. And you can tell that all humans have trouble with this, because if you suggest to African Americans that reparations should be something like the Yang Plan, where essentially everybody all across the board gets $1,000 a month. Turn 21, you get $1,000 a month, we call it reparations. This works great because, number one, it locks in the idea that, yes, America has built things on slavery, and that will always be part of our history. We've locked in that reparations saying this is true. And they're not going to be like in Germany, where we've got people denying the Holocaust, or another 600 years we got people saying, oh, America never even had slaves. Is we will have locked this idea in, and that history will always be there. And then the second thing it'll do is if you give everybody $1,000, everybody who's been harmed by the institution of slavery will benefit from it. But if you give the CEO of Wells Fargo, Wells Fargo literally made money on slave launches, you give them $1,000 a month, it don't mean anything. What's he gonna do with it?
It's absolutely
you know.
And a lot of people say, well, we can't afford to do that. Man, look at the stimulus when COVID-19 happened. They made money out of nothing. They said, we need money, well, let's make it.
And if we want to fix all of it, let's just get rid of deductions.
Right.
Because I own a house. Why should somebody who's living in an apartment pay for me to live in a house?
True.
I've got kids. Why should somebody without kids pay for me to have kids?
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And that's on my level, but I also know that there's a company out there that bought a piece of equipment and they're getting a tax break on it from me, and I don't have that piece of equipment. Now I got to still go to the store and buy whatever product they're making on it.
Yeah.
Let's just get rid of deductions. We know that's not necessary, and we can pay off all the stuff we're dealing with now if we start managing those deductions. But we have to recognize our own steps in being oppressors, and there's also often a statement that black people can't be racist, and that's true because we don't have access to institutional power.
Right.
But when we've been given access to institutional power, when we joined the military early on, what did they use Buffalo soldiers for?
Die first.
Well, they sent us out to the Midwest and we killed Indians by droves. The Indians were impressed that we were fighting, but the truth is we should have been concerned that what we were doing was removing them from their own lands.
Yes.
You know, I'm proud of my family's military service, but if I don't recognize that was not something we should be proud of as a nation, then I can still be proud of my great-great-grandfather and what he did, but I can also say what he did is something we should never do.
And I can guarantee that you wouldn't put a statue up about that.
Yes.
You wouldn't put idols up about it.
And we might have, and I think that's the other thing that we're going to have to recognize is there probably is a statue somewhere of a Buffalo soldier attacking a Native American.
True.
And we're on the wrong side of that one.
True.
We're going to have to put that monument in the proper context. Exactly like we got to put this in the proper context.
And I know as a nation of people, we are willing not only to forgive, but to learn from our mistakes so that we can move forward, so that we can progress. We're not stuck. We don't want to be stuck, rather. We don't want to be stuck.
We have to forgive because we want forgiveness.
That's right. Yeah, we walk along. They freed us, or we freed ourselves, whichever one you want to
if you're American, you helped in that freeing.
Right.
So 80 men from Franklin County left Franklin County, went to West Virginia, and joined the U.S. Army to aid in the emancipation. Now, I can also say there were Confederates, black people that sided with the Confederates. There's no such thing as a black Confederate because the Confederate Army wouldn't enlist anybody.
Right. That was like 1865.
But there were black people that fought along with the Confederacy.
Right.
But they fought to keep people enslaved, and those of us that fought for the U.S. fought to eliminate that. And we know the proof because afterwards we ended up with the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment.
And I know that the Confederate Army would not let the black man enlist.
No.
Yeah, so this whole theory about this proud black Confederate soldier, that didn't happen. That did not happen. So, listen, if we can be freed and keep on marching on, and then we ask for something as small as take your symbols from such a terrible time period, don't destroy it. Just put it somewhere else.
Put it somewhere
else. All right, we are at the Grand Halls of Justice right now. We are on, let me disconnect here. We are at, and you can see behind me here.
Thank you for an interview.
Oh, yes, sir. Right behind me. The Great Halls of Justice. The courthouse. Right, the courthouse. And right there. There he is. The symbol of hate, the symbol of oppression. So, it doesn't get any more real than that. It doesn't get any more real than that. Because I've stated, in my belief system, I've stated before that if it wasn't at the courthouse, there probably wouldn't be much of an uproar. If it were over in a museum already, there wouldn't be any issue. What would be the issue? What would be the problem? Nothing. If you wanted to learn about, Confederate history, and you went to a museum or historical zone, where that's where all this type of history was kept, that would be your choice. Nobody would give a hoot. But if you take a symbol of oppression and place it on the steps of a courthouse, you're telling me, don't forget your place. Don't forget your place. You will not get justice here. Don't be fooled. The Confederates said clearly, and I stated already, if it wasn't for slavery, the Negro, the descendant of the African would not have a place in the United States of America. Marinate on that for as long as you need to marinate. Just think about it. And one more thing, and this usually shuts down the entire of those saying, this is about Southern pride. Okay. Ask them this question when they say that. So, had the South had won, would my black friends be slaves right now? Would I as a black man be a slave right now? Had the Confederates won and had their way? Then the answer is yes. They would be the largest group of organized slavers in the world. That puts an end to everything debatable concerning